You think you're lazy, you think it's some permanent flaw, but I beat laziness in 7 days because I realized it wasn't laziness at all. It was a system failure, one you've been stuck in your whole life. This isn't about motivation or hustle. It's about rewiring your brain to make action automatic. And once you see what happens on day one, there's no going back. But first, you need to do something you've spent your entire life avoiding. Day one, the mirror test. You wake up, and the first thing you feel is guilt. That pile of tasks you've been avoiding, it's still there. And so is the voice in your head whispering, you'll get to it later, but not today. Because today, you're going to do something most people never do. You're going to look straight at the thing that's been quietly running your life, your avoidance. Not the loud kind, not the obvious kind, but the slow, subtle kind, the kind that wraps itself in logic and excuses, the kind that tells you you're too tired, too busy, or just not ready yet. You sit down with a blank page, just you and silence, no phone, no music, no productivity hacks, just a simple question staring back at you. What have I been avoiding? You hesitate. You want to write something, but your mind suddenly goes quiet, almost like it's protecting itself. Like there's a part of your brain that knows once you start writing, there's no more pretending. Eventually, you scribble something down, then another, and then it pours out. You don't write a to-do list. You write a confession, emails you never answered, projects you started and abandoned, people you were supposed to call, books you bought but never opened, ideas you claimed to be passionate about but never took one step toward. And as the list grows, something dark creeps in. You start to feel the weight of your own decisions, not because you failed to act, but because you've mastered the art of avoiding action. You realize how often you've confused activity with progress. You remember how many times you worked all day and accomplished nothing that mattered. You've become a master of motion and a stranger to movement. And the realization hits you like a gut punch. You didn't become lazy overnight. You engineered it, one compromise at a time, one do it later at a time, one click, one scroll, one skipped alarm, all harmless on their own. But stacked together, they built the version of you you're trying to escape. It hurts, not because you're broken, but because deep down, you always knew this day would come. Day you'd finally admit that the reason you're stuck is you. You put the pen down, you look in the mirror, you don't see failure, you don't see weakness, you see the enemy, and for the first time, you understand it. It's not laziness, it's neglect of your time, of your integrity, of your potential. And there's a quiet rage that starts to rise. You feel the time you've lost, the chances you never took, the opportunities that passed because you were busy hiding from them. You can't go back, but you can stop pretending. You built this mess, which means you're powerful enough to tear it down. That notebook in your hand, it's not a list anymore, it's a map. You see the gaps, the leaks, the failures of consistency, and now you can fill them. You haven't earned back your time yet, but you've earned back your focus, and that is the starting line. You were never lazy. You were just living without intention. But now, intention has returned, and laziness just lost its strongest weapon, your denial. This isn't motivation. This isn't hype. It's the raw truth, the kind that makes your stomach turn and your heart race. And that's exactly how you know you're on the right track. But naming the enemy isn't enough, because tomorrow you're going to starve it, and it's going to fight back harder than ever. Day two. Kill the dopamine loops. You thought day one was hard, but that was mental discomfort, shame, realization, maybe a little clarity. Today, it gets physical, because now you're cutting off the fuel that laziness feeds on. Not motivation, not willpower, dopamine, the invisible leash that's been pulling your attention like a puppet string. You wake up, your hand moves toward your phone without thinking. It's muscle memory by now. Thumb unlocks, notifications glow, your brain lights up, but today you don't touch it. You leave it face down, and just like that, you feel the withdrawal. It's subtle at first. A mild itch behind your forehead, a weird kind of restlessness, like your body's ready to sprint but has nowhere to go. You thought quitting social media would make you feel free. Instead, you feel empty, because here's what they never tell you. You're not addicted to content. You're addicted to the feeling of almost doing something. That tiny hit of progress your brain gets from clicking, scrolling, refreshing. It mimics action, but it's hollow. It doesn't change your life. It just keeps you occupied. You try to focus. You try to work, but your attention won't sit still. You can barely get through a paragraph. You forget what you were doing halfway through a sentence. Your brain is still hunting for the easy reward it used to get every 10 seconds. This is the cost of overstimulation. You've been so used to frictionless satisfaction that now real work feels painful. Not because it's hard, but because it's quiet. You start noticing patterns you never paid attention to. How often you check the time. How your brain tells you you're hungry when you're not. How every small discomfort sends you searching for relief. That's not laziness. That's your brain, wired by years of instant gratification, and it doesn't go down without a fight. By noon, the lies creep in. Maybe just one video. You've earned a break. You'll focus better after a quick scroll, but you don't listen because now you know those aren't thoughts. They're defense mechanisms. You've disrupted the pattern and the system is panicking. So you write it out, you go analog, you write, you read, you walk, you sit in silence. It feels boring at first, almost unbearable. But eventually something shifts. The noise fades, your mind starts clearing. The cravings don't vanish, but they lose their grip. You're not checking your phone every few minutes. You're not chasing stimulation, you're processing. You begin to notice things again. The sound of the room, the pace of your breathing, the way your thoughts return to stillness. It feels unfamiliar but right. You're coming back online not as a consumer, but as a builder. You haven't fixed everything, but for the first time in years, you're in control of your own reward system. You stop feeding the machine that kept you stuck. You stop mistaking stimulation for progress. You realize laziness isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing everything except what matters. And now you've stripped it of its camouflage. You're not lazy, you were just chemically hijacked, and now the hijacker is starving. But this detox is just the beginning, because tomorrow you're not just removing distractions, you're taking full control of time itself. Day 3, schedule like a madman. You've cleared out the noise, you've broken the addiction. Now your mind is quiet, but quiet isn't enough, because if you don't fill that silence with structure, your old habits will. You sit down with your calendar, not to plan someday, not to feel productive. You're here to architect the next version of yourself. 5-minute blocks, every hour mapped out, start times, end times, transitions, breaks, movement, focus. It sounds robotic because it is, but that's the point. You've lived in chaos long enough. You've surrendered days, weeks, years to the idea that time is flexible. It's not. Time doesn't care about your mood. It doesn't wait for your inspiration. It passes, whether you're ready or not. So today, you become the one who bends with it, not against it. You build your schedule like a machine. Brutal, honest, efficient. You even schedule your procrastination windows, not because you expect perfection, but because you want clarity. The goal isn't to squeeze every drop of energy out of your day. The goal is to remove confusion, because confusion is where laziness hides best. But here's what you didn't expect. You feel resistance, real resistance. The moment you see the full day in front of you, clean, sharp, inflexible, something inside you panics. Your brain starts to bargain. Maybe you're being too rigid. You need room to be creative. This can't be sustainable. But deep down, you recognize the pattern. This is the same voice that told you to skip the gym, the same voice that convinced you to put off the phone call, the same voice that's been whispering you into mediocrity for years. So you silence it. You commit to the schedule block by block. You set timers, you prep transitions, you plan recovery time, and the first 2 hours go well, then something goes off track. A task takes longer than expected, you get interrupted, suddenly you're behind, and just like that, the schedule starts to feel like a failure. This is where most people quit. They assume the plan didn't work, but you're not most people. You adjust, you pivot, you reassign time with precision, not emotion, because it's not about perfection, it's about rhythm. You start treating your day like a launch window. You miss it, you don't wait, you shift trajectory. No spiral, no guilt, just realignment. You don't measure success in how perfectly you followed the plan. You measure it by how quickly you recovered when you didn't. That's the real test. That's what builds internal strength. And with each passing block, something incredible happens. You stop checking the clock. You stop asking what's next. You stop wondering how much energy you have left, because your energy follows direction. Discipline doesn't feel like punishment anymore. It feels like power. You've eliminated decision fatigue. You've starved indecision. You're no longer being pulled through the day. You're pulling it behind you. And here's the part that stuns you. The structure feels like freedom, not because it gives you less to think about, but because it releases you from the weight of constant choice. Laziness thrives in uncertainty, but certainty kills it before it can even wake up. By the end of the day, you've done more real work than you did in the last 3 weeks. And it didn't come from some burst of motivation. It came from mechanical clarity. You weren't busy, you were deliberate. Laziness couldn't survive here because you gave it no place to hide. You're no longer reacting to your day. You're designing it, but blueprints alone won't save you, because tomorrow you're going to break your mornings wide open and rebuild them from the ground up. Day 4, win the morning, win the war. The alarm goes off, and for a moment, you forget what this week is about. Your body wants to sink deeper into the pillow. Your hand reaches for the phone. Automatic, comforting, familiar. But then you remember that version of you is dead. You sit up, you breathe, and you make the first hard decision of the day. You don't hit snooze. It sounds simple, but it's not, because what you're really doing is breaking the first micro agreement of laziness. 5 more minutes won't hurt. Yes, it will. It always has. You drag yourself out of bed. No phone, no screens, no noise. The world doesn't get access to you yet because today you lead. Cold water on your face, movement in your body. You drop into push ups or a light stretch. Doesn't matter what, just move. That's when your brain starts waking up. Not with panic, not with external pressure, but with presence. You grab a pen and write down three things. One thing you must do, one thing you're grateful for, one thing that's been weighing on you. It sounds small, too small, but something shifts because instead of starting the day by reacting, you start by choosing. And the weirdest part, you don't feel amazing. You feel uncomfortable. You miss the instant stimulation, the mental sugar rush of news, updates, noise. Your brain wants the old high, but today, there's no high, only clarity. That's what most people never realize. Your day is won or lost in the first 10 minutes. The battle doesn't begin in the afternoon. It begins right here in the silence before the world starts shouting at you. You used to treat mornings like something to survive, a transition between sleep and stress. Now you treat them like a runway because how you launch determines how high you'll fly. You keep it simple, repeatable, ruthless, no guessing, no scrolling, no checking in with the world before checking in with yourself. You're not trying to win the day with willpower anymore. You're winning with rhythm. That rhythm builds momentum before you even need it. It stacks wins before the day has a chance to fight back. And slowly, you notice a shift in your behavior. You stop stumbling into your days. You start driving them. You stop being pulled by chaos and start pulling everything toward clarity. Your energy no longer feels scattered. Your thoughts no longer feel hijacked. You sit down to work and there's no drama, no ramp up, no resistance. You're already moving. You walk into your work not hoping for momentum, but bringing it with you. Because this is what it feels like to lead your own mind, not by force, but by ritual. And here's the most powerful part. Nobody claps for you. Nobody sees this. There's no trophy for winning your morning, but the payoff shows up later. It shows up in the way you stay calm under pressure, in the way you move from one task to the next without hesitation, in the way you make decisions without second guessing because you didn't start the day behind. You started ahead. You broke the chain reaction that used to run your life. You stopped reacting and started programming. Laziness doesn't stand a chance in a life with strong mornings, and you've just built the launch pad, but clarity alone isn't enough because tomorrow you're going to walk straight into the one thing you feared the most, and there's no hiding from it anymore. Day 5. Do the thing you fear. So far, you've built structure, discipline, momentum. You've done the hard things, but not the scary ones. That changes today. Because now you face the task you've been dodging for months, maybe years. Not because it's difficult, but because it's personal. There's something you've buried. You've tucked it behind distractions. You've justified avoiding it with fake priorities. You've convinced yourself it's not the right time, not urgent, not worth the stress. But none of that is true. You know exactly what it is. Maybe it's a conversation you're avoiding. Maybe it's a decision you've delayed. Maybe it's a project that terrifies you because it actually matters to you. You don't write it on your to-do list. You don't even say it out loud because once you name it, you're responsible for it. But that's the whole point of today. You're done running. You sit in front of it. You breathe. You feel your heart race faster than any cold plunge or morning push-up ever made it race. Because this isn't about effort. It's about vulnerability. This task isn't just a line item. It represents something. It threatens your sense of identity. If you try and fail, you might prove yourself right, that you're not ready, not capable, not enough. And so, instead of risking that pain, you buried it. But today, you dig it up. Your brain tries every trick in the book. It's not urgent. You're not prepared. Just one more day. But you've heard this voice before. You know it well. It's fear dressed up in logic. It speaks calmly, rationally. It sounds like it's trying to protect you, but it's not. It's trying to keep you exactly where you are. So you move. You take the first step. You open the dock. You dial the number. You send the message. You move forward without permission. And in that moment, everything shifts. Not because it gets easier, but because you stop treating fear like a stop sign. Your palms sweat. Your voice shakes. You overthink every word. But you keep going. You do the thing, and then silence. No crash, no catastrophe, no explosion, just stillness and freedom. Because the weight you've been carrying wasn't the task itself, it was the story you built around it. You weren't avoiding the work. You were avoiding what it meant if you failed. You thought if you tried and it didn't go perfectly, it would confirm your worst fear that you're not good enough. But you tried, and it didn't break you. It freed you. You look at what you've just done and feel something unfamiliar. Pride that came from courage, not outcome. And here's the twist. Sometimes the thing you fear most doesn't destroy you, it liberates you. Now you see it clearly. Laziness isn't always about fatigue. Sometimes it's just fear with a mask on. Most people stay trapped because they never challenge that mask. They stay busy, stay distracted, stay small, but not you.
Today you stopped avoiding yourself. You crossed the invisible threshold that separates dreamers from builders. And for the first time, you trust yourself to confront the resistance, not hide from it. And the fear that used to run your day, you looked it in the eye and moved anyway. But raw action can't be your only fuel, because tomorrow you build something far more dangerous than momentum. You build a system that never stops improving. Day 6. Install the feedback loop. You've moved, you've acted, you've done the uncomfortable, terrifying thing, but now comes the part no one wants to do, the part that separates people who grow from people who relapse. You
Review. And that's when the resistance creeps back in, because action feels heroic. Review feels clinical, cold. You don't get a dopamine rush from looking at your flaws. You don't get applause for confronting your inefficiencies. But without it, you stay stuck in the same loop no matter how much effort you're putting in. So today, you build a new loop, a feedback loop. You start by tracking the truth, not how many tasks you finished, not how many hours you logged, not how motivated you felt. You track clarity, energy, distraction, resistance. When were you focused? When did you stall? What threw you off? What pulled you forward? You study yourself like an engineer dissects a malfunctioning rocket. No shame, no emotion, just data. At first, it feels pointless. You write things down and wonder if you're wasting time. But then you notice something. You see the dip that happens every time you skip your morning ritual. You see the spike in focus that happens after your midday walk. You realize how much productive time is still being spent fighting resistance. And suddenly, this isn't just a list. It's a diagnostic scan of your mind. It reveals how your thoughts shift under pressure, how you slow down when no one's watching, how distractions disguise themselves as just quick breaks. It's not fun to see, but it's freeing because now you're not guessing, you're learning. You aren't blindly repeating yesterday's behavior. You're learning how yesterday failed, so today doesn't have to. Most people move through life like blind pilots shopping. Their next move is better than the last, but you're building a self-correcting machine. You test, you measure, you adapt. You stop living on autopilot and start living like a scientist. You run your life like a launch system, tight tolerances, clear feedback, rapid iteration. That's how you outgrow your laziness, not with hype, not with motivation, with mechanisms. And the loop, it gets tighter, cleaner, sharper. Soon, you start making micro adjustments before problems show up. You start eliminating inefficiencies before they become failures. You start seeing laziness as a signal, not an identity. When your focus drops, you don't judge it, you trace it. When your energy dips, you don't complain, you investigate. You stop treating setbacks like disasters and start treating them like inputs. And every time you close the loop, you get better. Not because you tried harder, but because you understood faster. That's what most people never realize. Improvement isn't about effort. It's about feedback. Effort without measurement is noise. But now you've removed the guesswork. You've built a process that upgrades itself. And tomorrow that process evolves again. Not because of discipline, not because of fear, because now you found something far more powerful: obsession. Day 7, design your obsession. You've done the work. You've ripped the mask off laziness. You've rebuilt your system from the inside out. You've stared fear in the face. You've created feedback loops and measured your own mind like a machine. You've come further in 6 days than most people do in 6 months. But it's not over, because effort will only take you so far. Discipline will eventually run out. Systems will break. Habits will falter. And when they do, only one thing can carry you forward: obsession. Not the version people pretend to have on Instagram, not the motivational buzzword, real obsession, the kind that gets under your skin, the kind that eats away at you when you're idle, the kind that doesn't ask for permission because it's wired directly into your nervous system. You sit in silence, no phone, no checklist, just one question in your mind: what could I build that would consume me in the best possible way? You're not looking for what sounds cool. You're looking for what hurts when you ignore it. The work that feels like breathing, the work that makes you forget to check the time, the kind of work where you're not asking, how do I stay motivated? You're asking, how do I not waste this day? Because when obsession is real, laziness dies by default. You grab a whiteboard, a notebook, or just a scrap of paper, whatever is closest. You start writing, crossing things out, circling the ones that won't let you go, not the things you think you're good at, the things you can't stop thinking about, the problems that frustrate you, the ideas that haunt you, the missions that, for reasons you can't even fully explain, just matter. You don't need a full plan. You don't need a clear outcome. You just need a direction that stirs something inside you so deeply that avoiding it feels like self-betrayal. You filter every goal through that lens. You kill anything that doesn't connect. You stop organizing your life around outcomes and start organizing it around obsession. It's not about passion. Passion fades. Obsession replaces your identity. You think differently. You walk differently. You wake up with a different urgency. You're not trying to trick yourself into doing hard things anymore. Hard things are simply what you do now. You stop needing rewards. You stop needing recognition. You stop needing external accountability because the work is the reward. Now, when your calendar fills up, it's not noise, it's movement. Now, when resistance shows up, you don't avoid it, you smile. Now, when the world tells you to rest, you don't feel guilt for working, you feel relief. Because work isn't draining when it's connected to obsession. It becomes fuel. You were never lazy. You were just disconnected. You were living on borrowed goals, borrowed systems, borrowed values. And you've spent 7 days tearing that all down. Now you've rebuilt something from scratch, from intention, from clarity, from truth. And here's the thing nobody tells you. Once you felt this level of internal drive, once you felt what it's like to build around obsession, you can never go back. Mediocrity doesn't feel comfortable anymore. It feels suffocating. Distraction doesn't feel harmless. It feels insulting. Procrastination doesn't feel like a delay. It feels like a betrayal. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another reset. You need one thing, direction, and you found it. You don't just wake up early. You don't just plan your day. You don't just crush your tasks. You build with urgency. You move with clarity. You act like your future depends on it because now you know it does. You've spent 7 days rewiring the system, and today the engine turns on. This isn't the end. This is the beginning of never needing to start over again. Now go build something that consumes you, and don't stop until the world feels it.